Greater Washington Policy Center's Communications Director, and I'm here with Paul Guppy, our Vice President of Research. Paul, thanks for joining me today. I want to talk about WPC's policy guide. Can you tell us a little about it?
Yes, that is this fabulous book right here, which we have published. It's the 5th edition of the policy guide for Washington State, and it includes the top recommendations that we think are important for public policy to improve the governance of our state. So it has recommendations in 10 policy areas: transportation, small business, budget and taxes, environment, education, healthcare, things like that, the labor force, for example. And you can see that it's a very slim and easy to read reference guide, and the purpose of it is to give our lawmakers and the general public solid ideas for improving public policy in our state. And really that is to make family life better for all of us, to run a business, to raise kids, just to make Washington State a better place to live with solidly researched ideas. That's what this is for.
Awesome. And this whole guide is available on our website, correct?
Exactly. So it's
Great.
available from us in printed form or online.
Awesome. Okay, great. So all of these issues are obviously very important for the state, but specifically with the legislative session starting this week, can you talk to me about, some issues that are really coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, exactly. So the legislature always has to deal with dozens of issues. It's very complicated and controversial usually. The top issues that we see coming up are really two. One is a kind of surprise tax increase initiative from the governor, and the other one is education. So those two are actually connected. So on taxes, the governor just got reelected to a second term. He didn't really talk too much about raising taxes during the campaign, but he came out just about 4 weeks after that and introduced several $billion in new taxes that he would like to have.
Wow.
As you can imagine, there's a bit of a shock about that in the political world. Even Democrats are not sure whether they would vote for his energy tax. He wants a cap and trade type tax, which would increase the cost of gasoline, heating homes, electricity, any kind of energy that we use. We sometimes think the governor maybe didn't think about how this would impact people in the eastern part of the state where winters are much colder. So we see that there would be a disparate impact on communities in eastern Washington that would not fall as hard as on people in western Washington. So that's one reason why that tax is possibly causing problems.
Interesting. And then you mentioned education.
Exactly. So on education, and Lee Finna on our staff put together a chart that shows the increase in K-12 education spending over the last number of years. And the McCleary court decision about 5 years ago has led to this recent increase right here. So this is a 34% increase in spending in education.
Wow.
So over $4 billion added to K-12 education. And that's what the McCleary case was about. Telling the legislature you have to put more money into education, and they did. So now the debate is how much more should they put into education, and so this is meeting some resistance because of the way the money is spent in schools already. So a number of people think that superintendents can hardly absorb the increases that they've had now, and the fact that only 60 cents of every education dollar reaches the classroom. So. School districts are monopolies. They tend to be inefficient. They're bureaucratic. There's a lot of politics with the union involved, and so it's difficult for them to spend money in ways that benefit students.
Because right now, even though the spending has gone up drastically, as you've shown us, the test scores have remained stagnant, correct?
Exactly. So that would be this.
Just flat line.
Reading and math.
Yeah.
Just flat, straight across. So what we're seeing is that as dollars go up, academic performance by students remains flat. And so that leads us to think, where is this money going? Okay, so, and that's where the politics and the bureaucracy come in. Now, as an alternative, our policy guide talks about education reforms that bring much more flexibility to the classroom, that allow family choice in education, and so that's where charter schools are important. I'm a public school parent, so I realize how limited the options are for parents making choices within the public system. So what we're arguing for is education savings accounts or vouchers or online learning or after school education or again charter schools, which we have.
Yeah.
But each of those options all has one quality which public education usually doesn't have, and that is parents choose. So any policy idea that helps families get broader options for their kids is the most effective way to go.
That's great. And can you talk to us a little bit about the income tax in Washington? That's a huge deal for most Washingtonians. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that is a huge deal, which doesn't seem to go away. So there is a constant campaign to get an income tax imposed in our state. The public voted on it about 6 years ago and voted it down. We have voted on an income tax in Washington State 9 times since the 1930s, and it failed every single time. Okay, most recently in Olympia had just a local income tax, which you would think in that city with a lot of government employees, it leans very far left. Certainly a local income tax would pass, and instead it got crushed. It was defeated. So we're surprised that in Olympia, in the state government, there's a continued push for an income tax. We expect that to come back.
Okay.
We think the governor, even though he hasn't said explicitly, but we're pretty sure the governor supports an income tax. He would sign an income tax bill if it was sent to him. And we also see that this McCleary education funding case is being used as cover to push for an income tax. So if the thinking is we have to have more money for education, therefore we need a new way to tax, let's go back to this idea of making Washington a state with an income tax. Now, this is very unpopular with the public.
Definitely.
So we would expect this debate to be kind of quiet in Olympia, but it's something that we'll be tracking,
Okay.
and we'll follow from there.
Great. Well, you can stay tuned on everything going on at WPC on our website, washingtonpolicy.org. Thank you very much for watching.